Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Last Epoch dev stream. I am your host, Mike. There I am. Hello. Glad to be back. Glad to be here. Hope y'all are enjoying yourselves today. I'm gonna kick things off. Little monolith run through. We're just pushing through our normal monoliths. Seeing how we can do here. Got our druid rolling. Still feels so good. Between Berserk and Frenzy, that just the attack speed cranked up. Oh, it's so nice. So how's everybody doing today? If this is anyone's first time here, as you're here right at the very start, I doubt it is, but if it is, if you'd like to ask a question, toss an at Last Epoch game before your or after or in the middle of your question, and I will be happy to answer it as best I can. And any and all proceeds from the channel do go to charity, and right now we are supporting Save the Children. I save children, which is great. Do a new one every month. And I get to hang out and play video games, which is great. It's the best part of this, really. That sound alert's always on my case, you know? Every stream. It's muted. It's not muted. I'm just detecting it muted because I muted my microphone. Actually, I think it's because the sound alerts is not on the splash scene that I have set up at the very start, where there's where it's like stream starting soon. The sound alerts is not part of that scene. I think that's what the problem is, because it only sees that it's gonna get turned on eventually, or doesn't even see that. Oh well. Good evening, Mr. Flibble. I'm a burr. Ooh, hybrid health shard. Oh, what are these? Yeah, you know. Not too shabby. No LP, but you know. I was watching the I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of it. Podcast that Grim and some of the people were on there. There was a recent episode of it with Lizard as the guest. They're talking about how suddenly with legendary potential, it's actually uniques being interesting, even if they're not the unique you're looking for. Just there's a possibility that it's still good to look at. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we were going for with LP. Glad you noticed. We've got a question here. I'm doing great. Let me start the ball rolling. When do we plan to be able to build our minions more defensively with more resistances and secondary defenses without sacrificing much of player defenses, and having more flexible gear and build options overall? Right now, we are limited to scaling extra defenses for them on one specific dungeon gear piece, the unique glove drop. Yeah, I think there's more options for that. That'll be just a natural extension of gear to come. I can't give you an exact time on it. I I feel like there was another unique that was being talked about recently for that, but I can't remember exactly. Well, I'm past the line. Oh well, one more won't hurt. Do you have any plans to increase the loot or loot rarity for arena monoliths, seeing as how they generally take much longer than regular monoliths? I don't think there's any immediate plans for it, but I think the play personally, and this, please don't take this as this is what's happening, because I don't think this is what's happening, but I'm not sure. Yeah, because we're still talking about it, still in discussion, still doing it, so maybe. But the what I'd personally like to see more is an incentive to take more time in a normal monolith. And I think the only way that an incentive for that can be can feel good is to actually have it be, I don't know, like an interesting thing or something that speeds up the overall process. It's like why are we rushing through monoliths mostly? And it's mostly to I think in a lot of cases to stack stability quickly in order to get to just get through to like recycle boss fights more frequently, right? I think that's the main reason why the rush is there. But what if going slow in the monolith, the regular monolith zones that weren't arena, actually ended up making it so that you got to the bosses faster? I know that's kind of a contradiction, but what if, right? That's more of the play I'd like to see it take, personally. But you know, I agree with the, I guess, general premise that it's not perfect. I guess what I'm getting at is that would make arena monoliths feel better because they're not taking longer. They may actually be shorter than most monoliths, you know. So it's or they like the time you spend in them would result in a similar amount of progress to your overall goal. So like the time to the value of your time is weighed the same. Or I'm not explaining this very well, am I? It's like the amount of time you spend. The reward for your time. These words are escaping me, and I hope it's making sense. Most of the time, what I hear when because people bring this up a lot about the arenas being worse nodes overall, and I think the reason for that is mostly based on the fact that it is slower to complete the overall goal by going to those. But if it wasn't slower to complete the overall goal by going to those, I don't think they'd be as negatively received overall. I think they possibly could even be received positively. Hi, Aaron. That was a rambly question. I hope I didn't miss too many other questions. If you have any more questions, don't forget to @ me. I'll be happy to answer them. Sorry if I missed something in there. It's a good beat. Dun, 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 dun. It's okay, I know I'm a weirdo. And then like when the bass drops, boom! No? Okay. Not bad. Not really our scene. Okay, let's do this. Let's go fight some bosses. Or a boss. Alright, is there any update on how multiplayer trading / lack of trading might work? I've heard and read a few things and was curious what your guys' thoughts were. Well, I'll start off by saying anything you've heard about how it's going to be is likely very speculative, and based off of little more than I guess I wouldn't put too much stock into what you've heard of what's going to happen, because it's not set in stone yet. At all. We don't really have much info that we can share on it. All that we can really do is say, like, some of the goals that we want to achieve with the system, and those haven't really changed much from, like, posts. If you look back and you look at posts about trading and you look at where we talk about the goals of what we want to achieve with that trading, that's pretty static. So things like we want people who are we as we've been playing and testing multiplayer, like, we don't have trading in our multiplayer system that we're testing internally yet. And, like, we're sitting there playing with each other and being like, oh, this, like, sweet bow dropped and I'm playing a primalist and I want to give it to Josh, who's playing a marksman, but I can't, and it's frustrating. So, like, we're experiencing these problems that we knew would happen, that we know we want to solve, and so there is very never mind. There is very active understanding that there is a need for some form of trading in multiplayer for it to be fun, especially when you're experiencing it together like that. And so we are trying to like build it in such a way that it improves the experience overall. And we do have goals with the system to do things like reduce the amount of possibility for RMT, and to like reduce the incentives for botting, and, you know, things like that. Like, there's a lot of things we want to do with trading systems, and weighing how important those things are. Like, hypothetically, if there was a system where it came down to what's more important, is it the feel for the average player, or is it the integrity for the competition? You know, what's more important? Where do we put the weight in that? So there's still a lot of stuff that we're working on and trying to figure out how we're gonna do it and all that sort of stuff. But I can't give any details. I'm sorry. Anything you can share on next patch? If not, any chance of Marble Stream? Marble Stream? Is that what it's supposed to be? I don't know what that is.
Yes.
Back in my day, we just had normal streams. They ran through the woods and it was nice. No, I don't know. You know, like a stream, like a water, river. No. It's okay. At least I think I'm funny. There's not much to share on next patch yet. I can tell you there's not going to be, like, I can tell you things there's not going to be. There's not going to be new classes. People have been asking that. There's not any big rework that's happening for skills on any class or anything like that. There's basically just the stuff that's in the preview image that if you type !forecast onto our Discord, it will pop up. I should have it pop up here too. That'd be a good thing. Yes, this is the two new dungeons with their systems and their rewards. You know, it's a similar design pattern to the existing dungeon, where there's a dungeon, has a unique mechanic that goes with it. It has a unique reward that goes with it. You know, it's there we go. Yeah. I got some teasers. Not all of the teasers that I brought today are even going to be in next patch. So, I do have some stuff I can show you that may or may not be coming in next patch. Here's a cool thing. It's a cool looking thing. A little concept art. Next question here. Any plans on making the game respect the Windows audio output settings? It should, I think. Right now, if you have two audio sources and you tell the game to play through the non-default option, the game continues to play through the default. Oh, like updating on the fly, where you don't have to like close and or if you like change the default in Windows on the fly, it changes in game. I think we have to like make a button to manually tell it to be like update your audio from the game. Like I don't think there's a way to have it auto detect that. There might be. Ooh, what's that? It's on the bottom of the cup. Like some butter or something. Ugh. Oh, I'm gonna say it's butter. Maybe it's mashed potatoes. Alright. Anything you can share on the Soul Gambler? Not really. It's interesting. I've heard a lot of guesses about it. I've heard some that were just wildly wrong. I have heard one guess that I'm like, were you in the room when we were talking about this? Do we have a spy? Is there a leak somewhere? There's some good guesses out there. It wasn't quite right, but there's some good guesses out there. The streams comment hit too close to home. Oh my gosh, I'm like going into stuff and my screen's all covered. Whoops. Here we go. I'm a bear. Rawr. That's right, look at me, I'm a bear. Smashy, smashy. Alright, we got a question here. I know it's probably far too late, but was there consideration of having a fog of war vision like Diablo 2? Always felt atmospheric. Yes, we did consider that for quite a while. And while I don't think it's great to have everywhere in the game, I think it's a really neat mechanic for certain situations. I think you see really like kind of subtly useful secondary stats on gear in Diablo 2 that show up with it, like the increased light radius is actually surprisingly useful. And then there's like dim vision debuffs like that actually plays with light radius and things like that, which is I think really neat. It's really heavy in the RPG side of things. Like that's very much it feels to me like that comes from more of a CRPG background personally. But it fits really well in Diablo 2. And I think you get like really thematic items like a Hellfire Torch, which has like +8 light radius or something, which is really cool. So, you know, it could show up in some way down the road, you never know. If you want Mike to see your questions, include an @ your question in the comment. Yes. Thank you, Reimer. Let me look and see what question that was a reply to. Because Reimer's got your back. Oh, it doesn't let me, like, jump to it. Oh, are you going to do something with the set in the future? Yeah, we're still debating exactly the set item question, as it gets brought up fairly frequently, especially since we've had such a big change to uniques and legendaries recently. I feel like they've kind of been left in the dust, which they kind of have to some degree. I mean, I'm using a set right now. I've been having a ton of fun with it. I found 2 pieces of it and then just pulled the other one out of my stash because I already had it. But I mean, like, while leveling, I thought it was really cool that I found 2 pieces of it. And I know it's not the expected case, but I thought it was really cool that I found 2 pieces of it, and it's been working great for me so far. And obviously this won't carry me through to like super endgame stuff, and I'm gonna have to switch those out eventually for sure. But yeah, we're still evaluating what we want to do with sets and where we want them to sit, and they're definitely underrepresented at the moment. There are fewer of them than we'd like. Sets are so tricky to get right, and I don't, and I know I bring this up. There are examples of sets done well, but they're really few and far between. And usually it's like a game that has 30 sets. You're like, one of them's really good, like really well done, really well executed, and the rest of them are kind of garbage. And I think there is a way to make them work. I don't know if we've quite found it yet. Because I love the puzzle that it creates, where there's some effect you really want out of your gear, and it creates this opportunity cost because it locks you into certain slots being used for that set, and maybe there's another effect that you would really need out of one of those slots that you have to then go find somewhere else in a less conventional way. And I think that type of gearing agility is the mark of a really good player quite often, and it's a fun part of build crafting as far as I'm concerned. I really like it. Some people don't enjoy that, but some people really like it. My general go-to example of a set that I did really like was Telrash's in Diablo 2, and I said this like a bajillion times on stream, so I won't go full details, but it's basically the fact that you can wear it as 3 or 5, and it works really well as either. Most of the games I play can update audio on the fly without issues. Ellie doesn't for some. Oh my gosh, don't die. Doesn't for some reason, as in-game options for this would also, I think, resolve the issue. Yeah, I was thinking about it as well, and there was, right before stream, I was like, you know what else I wish we had for audio options? Was, like, audio profiles, where you could, like, set presets for your audio settings. And I'm like, and I know this is, like, really a niche case. This might be sort of it's not worth the time. And so, like, I don't know. Maybe, leave feedback somewhere if you think this is a good idea or not. Having, oh, this is cool. Huh, didn't know we had that setting even. But having like a 1, 2, 3, 4 or audio profiles, and you click on them and it would like, you know, do something like this, and you click on it again and it would like be like, you know, like it would switch things up on the fly like crazy. Because when I'm like in the pre-stream beforehand, I like to turn the music in game up really high, but then turn like the sound effects down real low, so that I can like click on stuff, but people don't hear me clicking on stuff, but the music comes through and it's like a preview of the stream. So, you know, I'd like to do things like that. So there's definitely settings that we need for audio still. What is your approach towards changing not commonly used skills just because the class has an option for different skills that feel better? For example, most people play Static Orb Sork because it just feels better than any other skill, even though the number of other skills are relatively fine. I think when 2 skills both feel relatively good to use as each other, like similarly good to use as each other, a lot of it comes down to just damage output, like what's the highest content that it can clear type thing. I think that ends up being one of the main, even before it feels better, it feels how it feels. I think that's the primary determining factor which builds get played for the most part, and not always, but it really feels to me, and I don't think that's specific to our game at all. I think that's just people wanted to do well and push content and everything like that, and if someone's like, oh, my build X does it like this well, and build Y does it only half as well as that, my goodness, that hurt. Then it's people are gonna be hard pressed to do build Y because it's just not as good, you know. This is gonna be a difficult fight, I think. Just because keeping Berserk up is gonna be like impossible. I'm pretty tanky though. I just like stand here. Oh, that was the wrong button to press. I would love to answer some questions here. I kind of don't want to die though. Good day, cutie. Hope all is well with you and the team. Thanks, Quiet. Hi, team in chat. Hello. See, I'm getting through these. These are great questions for me to get through while I'm doing this. Haha. You guys got my back. No, Paddington. Today's Paddington. Yeah, there we go. Simple Sanctum Key. That would be a cool thing to do. Ooh. Crit chance is nice. How is our Void Res? God dang it. Change our resolution real quick. Stretch it out. I might just take the Void Res, because I feel like I'm going to be struggling with it. Of course, it's really high. Okay, whatever, I can take some gear off. Alright, get back to some questions here. Maybe those items sets which are weak should get a bonus, and also the set should get a bigger bonus but increase the rarity for the one item so we can farm it for a lot in order to enable legendary bonus set. I mean, we did actually do all those things last patch. We just may not have turned the dial quite enough. Can you make Frozen Orb worth using? Not saying I make it OP, but give it some love. Possibly. Any plans to add new class in the future? Not mastery, but like not mastery like Falcon or Rune Master or Warlock. It's possible. I think it's more likely we would see a 4th mastery on existing classes before we saw a 6th base class. But It's a long ways out, and a lot of things can change. So that's my guess is as good as yours on which order that comes in. Mike sees a mistake in his work. Oh no, what did I see? I don't know what that is. No questions for you today, unfortunately. Just relaxing with you guys while I do schoolwork. What's your schoolwork? Are you let me guess, you're training to become an architect. That's what I think you're doing. I think you're gonna design those sweet buildings. Yeah. Oh yeah, XP tomes right at the start. Let's get it. When I die to an explosion, does the death screen say exploded as a typo, or does the lol at me? Exploded. Does it actually say that? That might be intentional, but I bet that's a typo. That's funny. I kind of want to just intentionally die to an explosion now. Good guess, but I'm finishing my master's in social work, and there are 97 days to graduation. Well, in 97 days from now, congratulations! I hope you do wonderfully. Kick butt in any sort of exams you've got. I do not miss exams. I had story time, random tangent story time. Ooh. So I was taking, in high school, I took this thing called IB. That's like really hard grade 11 and 12 at high school, where you basically do the first semester of university at the same time. And the physics exam, I studied my ass off for it. And I didn't read the instructions properly like an idiot, and it said complete two of the following three sections. And I looked at them and I'm like, I know all these, I just didn't even read that, I just read the sections, I'm like going for it, and I like barely finished at the end, and my prof's like, I thought you knew what's going on here, what happened? Like, how did it take you so long? I'm like, there was so much to do, and they're like, they immediately knew what I did wrong. Like, you gotta pick two of the sections to submit, you can't submit all three. So I did 50% more work in the exam than I had to. Always read the instructions. The most important thing with an exam. Extra 5 minutes reading the instructions carefully, worth it every time. Oh, it's a big boy here. It's okay, I'm a big boy too. Come get it, Flame Griffin of the Lizard. What? Trying to jump out of the way. Yep. Oh, shucks. On the first one. It's not a good look. Too bad that isn't an explosion. Oh yeah, okay, let's die to an explosion. Okay, we'll have a little too much health regen to die to that, apparently. We'll find some big explosion later to die to. I'm not sure what I'm going to replace the set with when I do replace it, because I do need to replace it. It's fine, but, you know, it's missing a lot. The Artor's helmet won't do us any good because we've got that node that's only one companion. Let's just use an unspec'd companion and not have him just be all squishy. Oh, I missed that! Daedalus, thank you for gifting a sub to Rhymer Arts. That's fantastic. Not that he needs it, because, you know. Sorry if this has been asked already, but can the devs share any thoughts on potential changes, if any, to coming set items? So we don't have any wide sweeping changes to set items planned for this upcoming patch, as far as I know. We are aware that the set problem exists, where they are underpowered. In the general case, there are some uses for them, but they're relatively looked at as weak items right now. Generally looked at as relatively weak items right now. We know there's a lot of people that want stuff done about that. Totally hear ya. Do I know what that's gonna be yet? No. I'm sorry, I cannot tell you what's gonna happen. We've been extremely focused this patch on multiplayer. I don't know if I've done any work myself on single player this patch yet. That's not true. Okay, I've done some. Very little. Which is very strange for me. It's great. Very strange. Could you clarify how Orion's Eye void damage taken is fire and less fire damage taken works with Sentinel idols that convert fire damage taken to physical? Oh, this one. They shouldn't work together. Everything should only be converted once. So if you have all of those things, if you have void damage taken as fire, less fire damage taken, and fire damage taken as physical, any direct fire damage taken, a percentage of that is taken as less fire damage taken, and a percentage of that is converted into physical damage, which gets applied to your physical resistance. If you have void damage taken, a percentage of that is, with that I think it's actually 100%, is converted to fire damage, and your less fire damage taken applies. That's it. So it doesn't do a double conversion. Nothing double converts. Ooh, there might be an exception to that. I don't think anything double converts. Now you know for sure that you need to do something. Oh, I tried to make that a link. For sure that you need to do something with sets. Nothing has changed since this conversation started with our position on sets. When am I going to ride a huge raptor or dragon in the ancient era? The people need answers. I like define dinosaur, right? Define ride. Like, are we talking? Like, would you consider the scene where you're riding or fighting on top of the eagle? Would you consider that riding the eagle? There's a big performance issue with mobs that are spitting cold, even though I have a very powerful PC. Whenever those guys spit cold, the FPS drops significantly. Yes, good observation. Get that frenzy. Berserk, whatever it's called. Both of them. I want it all. I want it all. Oh, stunning shine. Yeah. It's just so surprising to see. Rhymer, are you killing dreams? It's no fun. Next league? Okay. Let me just clear this map first. You know, I think I saw some enemies back this way. Let's kill them. Okay, maybe not that. But also up here, there's more enemies. Rhymer doesn't live on your tiers, but it does sustain him with his magical powers. Oh, come on! Got some damage to it. Mama, hey there, how's it going? Alright. Someone asked me for a spoiler, didn't they? Here's a cool thing. I wonder what that is. I wonder what that is. Do you know what that is? No, I don't. Do you know what that is? I mean, it could be anything. It could even be a boat. You know how much we wanted one of those. Right, I want to do Temple Sanctum at some point. Do a Spriggan build, that'd be cool. Yeah, we can't do that. Cash money, crafting mats. Sure, for sure. Love the Acolyte updates. Yeah, that's what that could be that. What if it was an enemy though instead? Huh? What would you say then? My goodness, I should stop standing in the fire. It's just so pretty. I just get mesmerized by it. I'm like, oh, fire. Ooh. Anyone else have that problem? I just think it's so pretty. Ground pools equal bad time? What, like above ground pools? Above ground pools would be fun. Are there any plans to replace increased modifiers on skill specialization trees with more modifiers? Also, what about relatively weak effects on those trees such as blind chance on lightning blast, which could be replaced by a single suffix on a weapon? I mean, I think there's... first of all, I actually think... it's tough to say. I think there might be too much damage coming from skill trees at the moment. So switching out increases for mores, while it works, it does incentivize, while it does work to bring up unused nodes to be more useful, it does incentivize just using more nodes because they scale with each other more. And I'm not sure if that's the right way to go about it, balancing stuff personally. If we do ever change something from increased to more, the upside to having them all be more is that they do, it is simpler to understand, which is great. Consistency is wonderful for comprehension. So there's definitely upsides there. And I think if we were to do that, the numbers would have to get, drop down. We can't just be like, 10% increase is 10% more. It just doesn't work. As for nodes that are mechanically distinct but not damaging, I actually think that those need to be more prevalent rather than be removed. I think that it's better to have more nodes like that in skill tree. Those are the more interesting ones, and the ones that really help show off the system in general. So if there's a skill that has just enough more damage nodes on it that you can basically leave the functionality intact, but by just putting more points to it, just crank up the damage and basically do nothing else. all like that's just Diablo 2 skill system, which there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just it's less dynamic, it's less interesting, it's less engaging, which is kind of the whole thing we're going for with our skill system. So I think it kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. We're gonna save him. Yeah, welcome back, Theodore.
Freedom. Death. Finally.
I'm stuck as a tree for that long. It sucks. Maybe Putrid Wraith. It's possible. Could be that. I just like not telling you guys so you can guess. More than once I've seen guesses show up for things we've spoiled that were wrong, but they've ended up being like, that's a good idea, we should just do that. That's definitely happened before. I don't believe that there are any increased modifiers left on skill trees. That might be true. If there are, it's a tooltip bug only. Yeah, I mean, we did go through and do that to a lot of them. I was kind of under the impression we never actually finished it. My point was that both increased damage and effects like blind and slow are very easily obtainable through gear, so paying the price of skill points feels bad. Okay. Well, increased damage, as Reimer just pointed out, still isn't on skills, so we don't have to worry about that one. But things like blind and slow, I think it's more interesting to have that decision where, like, am I using skill points or am I using affix slots? Right, they're two in your like build crafting decision making. Those are the two of the main resources, because you've got those resources, you've got your blessings, which are technically just more item slots, and then you've got your idols, which are also technically more just item slots, but they're different categories of them. So you've got your blessings, your idols, your affixes, and your passives and your skills, and those are all different categories because you can't take something out of one and put it into the other directly. You can't. There's no like, there's no passive slot that says you get to use an extra idol. There's no idol that says you get +1 passive point. You know, there's a little bit of overlap in the items that give skill points. I don't think I have any right now, but you can't. So you can, you know, change it a little bit that way in some cases, but for the most part they're pretty separate. And I think it's interesting when there are effects in both and you have to decide where you want that effect to come from. So if you're using up one of your item affix slots for to save skill points, or if you're using your skill points to save an item affix slot so you can use it for something else, like, I think that's an interesting decision. Or if you want a lot of that effect, having it in both is also interesting as well. Oh, my fire res is like non-existent. That's why the last one was so hard. Interesting. Very interesting. Is Alluvian Sword broken? Not sure. You can check the bug report forums to see if there's open bug reports on it right now. It's a great way to check. Or just open the bug report yourself if you think it's broken. Let's see why you think it might be broken in a sec here. I've tried a build, it's not working. I mean, the cold wave cannot take multiple damage from increased cold or flat cold damage, etc. Question mark. I even tried with Morning Frost boots and the damage is still the same. Oh, you mean it's just not scaling the damage from sources like that. I guess all I can say is just check the tags and make sure it lines up. It should work. Is it true? Oh, he's fishing, Rhymer. Is it true that the general direction of Warlock is void, like Sentinel's Void Knight won't hold you to an answer? There's no answer, but like, no, it's not true, and no, it's not true. You know, like we don't have details to share on it right now. A non-answer answer? Where I said literally nothing? I'm glad you'll accept it. I'm sorry, there's no information though. Void Warlock confirmed. I don't have to say it, but just to be clear, it didn't say that. I'm asking because Reign of Winter Bow, which procs icicles, is working, so it should be the same for Cold Wave Alluvian, right? I mean, if they've got the same tags, yeah, it should be the same, I think. I have to look at how they're worded. Might have one line around. Come on. Ugh. Thanks to the third league. I know you're intentionally doing it, but you're getting under there real good for some reason. I don't know why. Warlock should have an Inferno mob like the Warlock from WoW, that little imp. Loved the imp. I played a Warlock. Warlock was my main in WoW for a long time. Well, the entire time I played, actually. It was my first character. It was still my main. They actually just printed a magic card that was one letter off from my character's name in WoW, so I had to make a commander deck out of it. The imp was always my favorite, though. Actually, the Fell Hunter, before they nerfed it, was my favorite. Because I hated rogues and PvP so much. It was just enough time to react. Branching off of those tree node ideas and having less damage modifiers, what are developers' thoughts on interesting ailments that are non-damage dealing but have interesting effects, or perhaps serve as damage boosts for skills that already exist in some ways, such as Unique Nightbringer and Blind and Earthquake's Shatterquake node? Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to apply interesting effects. or interesting mechanics that can work together. It's hard to come up with things that are really unique. And sometimes it's the theme that you present it with that changes everything. I think a really cool example of this, and I know I use Magic a lot for examples, but there's a mechanic in Magic called Kicker. And if you haven't played Magic before, you have to pay costs. You have resources called mana. You use the resource to cast cards out of your hand and do what the card says. Kicker was an ability that was introduced where you could pay an additional cost on top of the normal one to do something extra. So say a card was like, it deals 1 damage, and the kicker makes it deal 2 damage instead. So it's just like, it's an extra cost you can pay to have it do something on top of what its normal effect is. And there's this running joke in Magic where there's only like 3 types of effects in Magic. And the most common one is just a kicker by any other name. So there's so many of these different effects that they keep producing in Magic that if you take the effect and you really boil it down into its essence, it's just kicker. And that's it. Like, there's literally dozens of mechanics that you can just rename kicker and it works. And I think it's really interesting because you can still, I think that same sort of effect applies because those mechanics are still well received, they're still fun to play and all these things, but even though they're just kicker, they're still fun and interesting and they seem and feel new. And I think I think we can take note of that and how it's presented as the reason why it works and do something similar for sure. And I know the question comes back to non-standard effects in skill trees that are a little bit more interesting, and that's when we're building a skill tree, most of what we're trying to do is all the interesting and transformative nodes are the ones that we're like, okay, we gotta have these nodes first, and then like all the nodes that are just like more damage, those are the nodes that we're like, okay, I guess we need a little bit more nodes in here, so I guess we've got to filler it with more damage nodes. So the trees that have a lot of more damage nodes are usually either kind of older because we didn't have as many things we could do with it, or we just had a tough time coming up with unique mechanics for the tree. So yeah, I definitely want to add as many new and interesting mechanics to every skill we can. I think in a perfect world there'd be almost no nodes that were just more damage in almost any tree. I think in a perfect world for this, it would be basically every node was transformative in some way, and like if it was the kicker scenario where everything boils down to just one thing, if it is something that just boils down to more damage, it does so in a thematic way that makes it interesting at least. Yeah, okay. Get that berserk rolling. On my way! When will the multiplayer patch come? Get ready for a horribly generic answer. When it's ready. My Sailor Moon pose. You guys get my arms are too low, you can't really see it. Trust me though. That's what's happening. I've heard you say that 40 times. You've probably heard me say it more than that. Kids doing animal noises right now. Lion. #1 best noise. Somehow gets like surprisingly like good lion roars. Like rah! Rah! That's lion. Have you heard this question? Why can't shards be auto pickup? There's this automation spectrum, and like it can be applied to basically every. I know you've heard this question a bajillion times. We've been talking about this a lot recently, as in 2 hours ago we started talking about this really heavily. And there's this automation spectrum where, like, I mean, you could just log in and press the #1 key once and your character would run and go fight the first boss on its own and pick up everything important. You know, like, that's the extreme example. Obviously we're not going to do that. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where, like, literally everything has to be done manually, where, like, if you want to pick up an item, you have to open your inventory first, and it picks up to your cursor, and then you got to place it in the spot manually, and nothing stacks, nothing organizes, nothing goes anywhere, and it's all completely manual. You got to pick up gold on its own. Like, everything is completely manual. You have to, like, there's a maximum amount of weight that gold stores, and every like there's real far extremes there, right? You got, like, things go into your bag in order, and you gotta pull out something if you want to put something else underneath it, or if you want to get something down lower, you gotta pull the top thing out first. Like, there's real extreme other ends to that spectrum for sure. And we definitely have some goals when it comes to shards and items in general. And one of those goals is that shards do feel like items. Crafting materials are these, like, small, oh, that's something good, oh, that's something good, things that you're going to want to take, you're going to want to pick up, and that they are items. And we also do know that one of the main reasons we have controller support is because lots of people have repetitive strain injuries from playing games like this and clicking too much. And so, like, that's why we have things like the shard vacuum, where when you pick up one shard in a cluster of them, if I pick up just one of these, it picks up all three of them, right? That's specifically an attempt to help alleviate problems like that a little bit. And I think that there's, like, so I think you have this spectrum. So, like, there's gold on one end of it and equipment on the other end of it. And so then there's potions, and they feel less like items than shards do, but more like items than gold does. It's always avalanche. Flippin' avalanche. And I think that there's a lot of value in having these things be feeling like items, and feeling like they're not just a resource that you're picking up. So you'll notice that, like, the things that are really themed as resources, like gold, and then items potions to a lesser extent, but, you know, still they feel more like a resource than an item than a unique does, for example. And I'd put idols on that same list too, and they feel a little bit less like items than equipment does, but they're definitely further to the right on that list. And so, like, the things we can do to keep shards feeling more in that item leaning thing, we do. And so auto pickup is more of a property of a resource than an item. So that's one of the reasons why they don't auto pickup. Would it be too crazy to do asymmetric trees where different skills would have different maximum amounts of allocatable skills, so you wouldn't have to make filler nodes? Yeah, so I understand where you're coming at there. Keeping mechanics understandable and symmetrical, and not having these like hidden edge cases is really good. So say someone they're leveling their character, they're starting off, they've got to swipe here, they've got their first 5 skills, they've unlocked one of these, they're leveling it up and everything. I mean, I guess you do unlock all of them before you get there, but even so, let's say you get to your build, you get to here, and you've just unlocked Entangling Roots, and Entangling Roots only gets up to 15, but you have like 18 in all your other skills. And you've planned this whole time because you've got other skills to 18, you know it's going to 20, or you think it's going to 20 because maybe you've had other characters that have gone to 20 on their builds, and you never run into one that didn't go all the way to 20. And then suddenly you get to Entangling Roots and it's max 15, and the build you've planned out doesn't work because you don't have the points for it. That's something we really want to avoid. And so to that point, what we do instead is, you'll see when we want to restrict how far out you go on these things, you'll notice that we'll want to restrict being able to get like this node and this node at the same time. There'll be higher like requirements on the connection requirements will be higher on the way to those nodes, and that's how we regulate that same. So that's the same goal and a different way we get there. But we do like want to have a similar number of total nodes. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll take a node and we'll split it off. So instead of having a node that's just like, and this is kind of the combination, it's kind of the opposite of what the nodes we've done for in Druid, where there's things like this, where there's like a 5-point bonus. So sometimes what we'll do is we'll say, in a skill tree, we'll have a node that might be like +1 attunement and strength per point, and then there's a node behind it that gives the +1 all attributes, but it needs 5 in the first one to access. And that's really the same thing. If the node behind it gives 1 attunement, 1 strength, and 1 to all attributes as well, then it would be the exact same thing. But that's kind of the how we do it differently sometimes in the skill tree. Sometimes we do have intentionally slightly smaller trees, and we have a range that we want the number of nodes to sit in per tree. Well, since I've designed a new tree, I think it's 30. Yeah, it's 30. So you'll see anywhere on newer skill trees, you'll see anywhere from 27 to 32, I think is the range. Nodes. Just gotta get that map explored. Oh, no, we lost Theodore, didn't we? Okay, well the next one's named Paddington. Well, now's not a good time to not be a bear. It's always not a good time to not be a bear, but now's really a good time to not. Yeah, words. Can't live with them, can't live without. Alright. And gold should be auto or like mini pet rabbit to gather all the gold. We've talked about having a mini pet for picking up gold. It's not currently on the ticket. It's not completely off the table. It's one of those things where it's like it's another automation. It's another piece in the automation spectrum. And the thing about the automation spectrum is you can't. You can only go one way on it, and so this is like the analogy I used we were talking about earlier. Is in our Discord. You know when you like pull a seatbelt really tight, really quickly, and it like locks, and it'll still let you like let it shrink, but it won't let you pull any more out. That's like the automation spectrum for us. It's already locked, and we can only go one way. And if you go the other way, it's possible to go the other way. But you're gonna get a lot of pushback on it. And there's going to be a lot of not happy campers when you do it. And it's fine, in some cases we have to do that, but we don't like, you know, making everybody upset if we can avoid it. Oh my goodness. Oh, got a little sustain going on apparently. Amulet. Boo boo. Will keys ever be stackable? Possibly. So keys in general, like the way they are right now, yeah, I think I would look at the key implementation right now and be like, yeah, okay, it's got to be stackable, of course. There's interesting thing with keys we've talked about quite a few times, and it's adding stats directly to the key. And right now we don't plan on doing it, but we weren't 100% sure that we weren't going to when we first released the keys, which is why we didn't make them stackable originally. And I just realized I talk with my hands a lot on this, and you guys can't see them at all. Sorry. So yeah, like so we weren't sure that we weren't going to add properties to the keys themselves at some point down the road, so we didn't make them not stack. Because as soon as you do that, you can't be stackable. So the easy example of this is maps and PoE. Maps aren't stackable because maps have properties, and they're not the same. So you get two maps that have different properties. They're suddenly not identical, so you can't stack them. Pretty straightforward. And Scarab just saved my life. Too bad I'll have to take his. Got there. So it's possible we might make them stackable in the future. Maybe. We have the technology. A lot of hope and chaos. Will the quest marks gonna be improved? I mean, sometimes I get real lost trying to follow them across the maps. Maybe. I don't think there's any major changes planned for them. Personally, I think they're actually too good at directing you to the right spot. I'd really like to see them be less this way, more just like a vague, like it's over there somewhere probably. But you never actually look at the shards in your inventory, you just instantly sort them, right? Yes. Do you see the future endgame systems on par in competitive nature with the current LE arena system? I'd really like to see multiple ladder types. So I'd really like to see and I think it's even possible for some of the current ones, current systems that already exist. I think that's the key thing for competitive systems, is to have a way of benchmarking your progress against someone else's. You know, like I feel like that's a pretty established thing. And it's tricky to do ladders for some things. Arena's a real easy way to do ladders. But sometimes you do ladders that actually incentivize kind of unhealthy play systems. So say you had a ladder that was just who can clear T4 jewel row the fastest from the point of entering the dungeon. Really incentivizes just running as fast as you freaking can. And that might be fun. Oh, neat. And that might be fine most of the time, but I think there's the potential for things like that to cause less good play patterns, I guess. Or not the play patterns we're hoping to have, you know? So either the benchmark system needs to be something that's more combat focused, or like, I don't know. There's lots of different ways to change that sort of thing, but it's tricky to find the right one. I'm trying not to die here and trying to talk at the same time. Might not happen. Might just die. My goodness, you're all beefy. Where's the beef? It's right here. Did not see the reanimation affix on that. This is a big jerk. A big doo-doo head, some might say. Yes, I'd like to see competitive systems show up for lots of other systems. Would you guys consider moving some of the power of Moors from skill trees to other character progression systems, dungeon gear, new systems? That way skill trees can be more varied and interesting. I think that would be a reasonable goal to have. Can't guarantee it'll happen, but I really like the idea. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Yeah, we can't do two of these. Sorry, Paddington. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. Oh, it might be in vain. Oh, it's in vain. Wow. Wow. Slow Bear! We got a specially named one! Yay! Alright, watching PoE League launch, it's cool having the server notifications of people of high ranks dying or killing bosses for the first time. Yeah, I love that. That's one of my favorite things about doing a league start in PoE. Huge fan. Do you see implementing this for LE, and if so, could we get it filters for mastery as well? If I'm playing a Sorc, I'm more interested in how I'm doing against other Sorcs than a Paladin. I think that's a great idea. I have no idea if this is possible for us. I hope it is. This is definitely something that I've got written down as like a don't forget to suggest this when we get around to it type thing. We're not there yet. I no promises, but I'm in your corner for it. Don't worry. Do we have any ETA on all the 3 new classes or multiplayer? Anything coming 2022? I have no information on timelines of these things. I apologize. We are working on multiplayer as a humongous priority. That is super duper what we're working on big time right now. As fast as we can. Multiplayer. Have you thought about adding a way to migrate items out of SSF without migrating the character that found it? PoE gets around it by sharing stash with all SSF characters. We're still working out exactly how we're doing SSF stuff. Maybe something we don't know what we're doing with that yet. It is there's sort of these like tiers of restrictions. So you have like standard characters, and then you have like standard SSF characters, and then you have like the current league characters, and then inside the league characters you have the like league SSF characters, and the league hardcore and league hardcore SSF, and there's all these like different categories and tiers and everything, and they kind of all like you can like remove restrictions from these characters or items even, and have them go to the less restrictive versions of themselves at will. And I think that's really good. I think that's something that we want to have. It's more going to come down to Can we implement that in a way that can't be abused? Skill trees would be more fun if they had less plus X damage and more nodes that change how the skill works. Power should be more based on stats, gear, passive idols, and utility should come from more from skill trees. Yeah, and we agree. Every skill tree is designed with that as the primary focus in mind already, and has been for years. Any spoilers? I don't have many left. I only have 2 left. Getting pretty close to the end, though. I can do a couple more then. Here's another one. Ooh, pretty. I think that's different. Tell me if you've already seen that one. My chat freeze? No, no one's just saying anything. Okay. It's so quiet in here. What's that? Uh-oh. Fireplace. Fire res terrible. What do? Do I actually have any way to increase fire res on any of these things? Little Ellie res. Little health. Got it preserved. Nice. I'll take it. What's the legendary potential in that weapon, right? Ooh, Ellie res. Can we bump that up at all? Yes. Wonderful. 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 There we go. Just bump the Ellie res up a whole bunch. There we go. We're up to 38. That's like double our fire res. I realized that I've still got that on my screen and I'm playing. I did all of that without you being able to see it. I got some good rolls on upgrades. Sorry you couldn't see it. With Hope Rock like 6 times there. And I definitely don't do that intentionally when I turn on the hacks key. So you guys just like don't notice I'm doing it. Yeah, definitely not that simple. The T50 thing is it's a code that we use, so don't take it to be too meaningful, because it doesn't mean what you think it means. It's a similar number naming scheme that we use for our scene names. Which can be confusing, especially when A30 is the second scene of the 3rd chapter, or the 2nd chapter. Yeah, figure that one out. Have you considered making the first monos a bit shorter so you can get to empowered ones fast? The first ones grind on a fresh character gets quite boring. Yes. Probably not in the way you're expecting based on how the question's worded. But I understand the underlying problem that you're trying to get at with the question, and we are looking to solve it. Despite this avalanche, I will weather the storm. My goodness, I need more damage. I do bad damage, guys. It's real bad. It's kind of sad. I'm not mad. Can we get that T-50 armor to have Russian flag and massive? No. Massive gun on it? No. We don't want to put in things that are directly representative of Earth. You know, like our Earth. So like any flag from anywhere. Also, there's no guns, so. Yeah. ZDPS. Yeah, I know. Oh, something cool came in the mail about 4 or 5 days ago. Yeah. Guys, my hand fits in it. Oh my god! This is the one thing I was worried about these. I was like, there's no way my hand fits in it. It's just going to sit there on the shelf, and I'll be like, no, whatever, it's cool. I have a lot of mugs that I like. Really cool dragon one, and the handles are always so uncomfortable. But my hand actually fits in the handle. It's great. So, anyone who picked one of these up, good call. It's very cool. I also got the shirt, but I haven't washed it yet, so. I will, I'll wear it next week. It's pretty cool, too. Does item rarity effect increase the rarity of items dropping from the item-specific drop echoes within the monolith? Example, using a unique or set sword dagger in the Reign of Dragons mono. I don't know. I'll add that to the list. I've got a big list of these questions, like a big list that I've been tracking for the last like month and a half now. Of like, does item rarity affect this weird edge case? I don't know. Let's figure it out. We're gonna sort out exactly which ones we want to answer and answer them all together. Cool! Was also wondering about Arena, because the concept in an RPG is quite nice, but getting 0 rewards if you die and low overall rewards makes it less desirable. Yeah, the Arena is really interesting because at its core, it's kind of a benchmarking tool against other players. It's kind of the main purpose of it right now, where you're the main purpose of it is actually to say like, how does my build stack up against that person's build in a very specific scenario, because it's not fantastic for leveling or for oh good golly Miss Molly, we have turned into not a bear at the most inopportune time. I'd love to see the arena get a little more interesting, have some more options in there, have some more different types of rewards, and that might be coming soon. Who knows? Keep your eye on the forecast, you might see something. At some time. I don't know. It's definitely not there already. I don't think I can lay it on any thicker. You want that cup? Did you order one? I feel like you said you did. Just need a bearskin hoodie for you to go full primalist. People get weird around like real bearskin or animal things in general. think I'd wear one. I don't know. Maybe? Feels weird. I don't know. We lost our friendly bear. No, slow bear. Rather subs a bee than a bear. Yeah, it's true. I would. Yeah, still got the wings here. It's gonna be glitter everywhere. Ow. Punched the ceiling. Nailed it. They on? Did I put it on upside down? Oh my goodness. Just pretend I'm wearing it. I tried. Oh, what a mess. What a mess. The unique items, sometimes I don't get the stat choices, like the two-handed ignite staff has necrotic damage, but it clearly meant for fire. How come? Sometimes we put stats in there so that it, like, sometimes we'll put more, like, we'll increase the item stat budget because they don't synergize really well, so that you can kind of take the item in different ways if you want and just focus on certain sections of it. So that's probably what's happening there. I'm in great spirits today and you like it? Thanks. I try and be in good spirits every day. Sometimes it comes through a little better than others. Some interesting weapons coming up recently. Let's get a nice exalted amulet. Ooh. Any estimate for when upgrading supporter packs will be possible again? I'm surprised they're not possible. Gotta get a bear. No special bear. Sad. If you really wanted to upgrade one, you can probably check in through support. support.lastepochgame.com/contact. We definitely don't have access to the 1K packs right now, though. I can tell you that for sure. For sure. This patch has been extremely multiplayer focused, and we did not make as much progress on the unique, unique supporter, the supporter uniques. There we go, got there, as we did last patch. Last patch we had a lot of them. Last match, I think we had as many supporter uniques as non-supporter uniques. It's pretty cool. Cave bear. I don't want to do this here. Fight my bear. Bear fight. It was a bare knuckle boxing match. On the website, it says upgrades are not currently being processed. They will be made available again in the future. We apologize for the inconvenience. Oh, sorry about that. We're probably in the middle of upgrading something, like some backend service. There's a lot of stuff changing right now with all sorts of services. Like there was just a patch, tiny little patch that came out, which rolled everything over to one of our new services. What about a passive reset button? I think it should be called the action button. Oh, yeah, so many of these. I forgot I was doing one of these. Love it. I do really like the idea of that. There are some reasons it's not there right now. It's not impossible that it won't happen, but I don't have any sort of ETA on something like that, sadly. None of those are really great. Let's get some info. I think this is tilted up higher than it normally is. Sure. That's why usually you can talking. Example. Other example. See here? Oh, and now I noticed that I still haven't put my sword up yet. My big sword. Got some hooks for it. Gotta put it up though. I also played a couple games of Magic last night for the first time in quite a long time. Did it online with some friends, and they play extremely high power. They play like the tip top decks that are out there. So I had to like take my best deck and like slap a bunch of fake cards in it just so it would be able to just hang. And it's a totally different beast. It's a ton of fun though. Called CEDH for competitive Elder Dragon Highlander. Is player retention at a point that EHG is comfortable with, or how close does EHG track that? I mean, like, if player retention was 100%, it would be a perfect world and everything would be fantastic and wonderful, you know? It's never going to be as good as we want it to be, but, I shouldn't say that, actually. Like, as we hope it could be, as far as our expectations are, it's actually doing really well. And we know that multiplayer is a huge part of that retention. We saw a big uptick in retention in 8.4 compared to 8.3, which was fantastic. Which, I mean, to me says, and there's a bajillion ways you can interpret all that information. And I'm no expert in interpreting that, but the way I looked at it was, people really like getting new things to do. And new items to make. Because those are the two biggest things that happened. And I think as we keep developing the game, the retention will get better and better. As quality goes up, as the amount of activities get polished and, you know, get brought into a realm where there's, because before there was really only 2 endgame activities to do, and now there's 3. So we've got to expand on those, and I think make them better, flesh them out, make them more interesting, make them more widely appealing, things like that. Will Monolith get any new timelines anytime soon, or is Monolith an almost finished state? I think that it's like, I don't know. I think the number of timelines that it has is actually a really good spot. That's one of those things that I'd really like to see change slightly patch to patch, where like the time, maybe some timelines get taken out, maybe some timelines get added in, maybe some timelines get reorganized. maybe some timelines change, things like that. Like that's the sort of stuff that I'd really love to see as a patch-to-patch adjustment. Right now, between now and launch, is kind of all I'm personally really paying attention to, and I think there's likely not a huge number of changes to the number of timelines that we'll see, and that could change. We might find a way to really quickly make lots of them. We might be like, okay, we're gonna add a couple more. There's all sorts of things that could happen with it, really. First thing, I do like the number that it's at right now. I'm a fan. Oh, I missed a question. Looks like Reimer answered it, though. Would you ever make Fire Aura a mage spell with its own talents? I really like it, but it lacks damage. 20 points can potentially bring. So it actually used to be a skill. It was bad. People hated it. We removed it. Not everyone hated it, but it wasn't an engaging skill to use. Oh, where are we here? Crushing out this wave. I should really take some time and look at my gear and actually get some more damage, because right now I definitely feel like I'm using a feather to tickle them to death. And all that's really happening is they're laughing at my damage, and they're laughing so hard. That they're dying of confusion. My beautiful burly bear. Slow bear, no. Slow bear's been long dead. We're like 3 bears past slow bear. This one's Primal Bear. It's got a 19th point in here. I'm sure we were doing something. What were we doing? We went to culling. Yeah, I remember those being bad. 2 claw totem. Could just do this. I gotta reevaluate all of this because I don't even know. I'm just putting points in like haphazardly as I've been getting them. I mean, what we're gonna do, I think, multi-form eventually. I've just gotta figure out exactly where I'm doing that. I actually don't want to knock them back more. Get the pull. Yeah, give me that pull. Just didn't sustain. Oh, we like our shield and skill. Do you guys store previous versions of Last Epoch as Git branches, or do you tag the Git headers to revert back if needed? We branch for builds. So there are branches sitting there for every build version. So we could go back to each version. And that's especially useful. Actually, we saw why that's useful just the other day here. When we just released another patch version, we replaced 8.4h with a new backend service, so it was really easy to go back to that and make the change for exactly the patch that was released, and only that change. Thanks. I was debating how to properly do version control with a friend of mine. It seems you guys do a great job, so I had to ask. Version control is such a kettle of fish, and I do want to put a caveat on my answer now that I understand where it was coming from. What works for us might not work best for you. So there can be reasons why things are done specifically for a certain situation that don't work as well for another. So while that might be the best solution for you, I would really recommend evaluating it independently of, like, using that as an example of a starting point is a good way to evaluate it, but don't take it because that's what we do specifically. Because while it might be the best for us, it might not be the best for you. So many different ways to use Git, and it is unbelievably powerful and complex, but so fantastic. I remember my first project that I did. Oh, whoops! Did not mean to do that. And you look back at your hard drive and like folder structure from the first one before you knew how to use Git properly, and before you're like, oh, it's a little project, doesn't matter. And you're like, game build v1.10 final, totally final. You're like, god damn. No room at the in bag. So we shouldn't force push to origin. It's not very often useful, but I've seen it done to great effect. Actually serious. Do V history with my LE builds out of habit, yeah. I got cocky and I burned. I do really need to get some more fire res on my gear, because ooh, that is 115 poison, 92 void, 17 necrotic. Should I fix my gear? I don't know. It's a pretty nice piece, actually. I don't think any of these are actually better. It does have that necrotic resistance. Bye-bye, lots of items. So time for one more. We have 3 minutes left. We're gonna ride out the time. If anyone's got any questions at the end here, I'd be happy to answer them. I do like that. I remember that. But this one's just so useful. Let's see if we can just quickly get a bear. That's good. Last leak. Oh yeah, there was one more thing, wasn't there? I did promise one more, didn't I? I'm just the worst. How's the young one? Progressing nicely. Thank you for asking. Last leak of the day. I think it's the coolest one. What's that? Why would I tell you? That's the whole point of this, so you can guess and speculate, and then eventually, I'm gonna go this way to see. Yes, I'm here. What is that? Could be anything. Arena of Champions. That'd be a cool name for it. The Void Warlock layer, this mythical Void Warlock. It's probably about. What would be your approach if Ellie had PoE's Headhunter Temp Chain Self-Curse build, which was loved by many but was completely dismantled by GGG to the point where it no longer exists? This is a really tricky one. This is a question, if you want to ask the type of question like this, it's best to ask me like an hour ago. I think it's really tricky, and I think also my opinion is not the only one that matters when it comes to something like this. And I think we've had something similar with Earthquake Werebear, actually. I think there's certain builds that can be a little too much, a little over the top, a little crazy. And I think it's actually better for the game's overall long-term health to have those at least go away a bit. Yeah, except EQ Werebear is still around. Yeah, we're really trying to keep EQ Werebear as a build, but have it be in a healthy spot. It's a really tricky thing to do, and I think we get a little bit more leeway on things like this because we're in early access still, and we're gonna have to be a little bit more. I don't know what the term for it is. Methodical, accurate, better when we're fully released. But keeping builds around that people love, even if they weren't initially intended, I think is a really good goal to have. It's not always possible, but when possible, I think we should try and do it. And it's less about destroying the build and more about making the build have a good impression to people who are viewing the game for the first time when seeing that build, and having it be fun and interactive to play, and not have it be the mandatory only way to play characters like that. So having, like, if you use EQ Werebear as an example, I think if Earthquake not using that system was viable and Werebear not using that system was viable, having EQ Werebear as a really powerful option is good. But having EQ Werebear be the only way to play Earthquake or Werebear is not a healthy position. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, well, on that really deep topic and incredible disappointment, it's time to end. Could we expect some new classes before 1.0 release? Last question here I will answer. Maybe. The 3 mastery classes, Warlock, Falconer, and the other one, Rune Master, I totally know what they are, will be releasing sometime at the latest by 1.0. So they could come out at the same time as 1.0, they could come out before 1.0. I don't know, I can't answer, I'm sorry. Sometime between now and 1.0 they will release. Maybe including 1.0, like between now and 1.0 inclusively. Is the plan. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you had fun. I know I did. I hope to see you next week. Until then, have fun. Enjoy yourselves.